There are many great mysteries surrounding the Franklin expedition. One of those mysteries is the identity of Aglooka, and in today's episode, we will try to at least narrow down who Aglooka was. So, Aglooka seems to be a reference to multiple people who were leading the expedition, but for this video, I am just going to try to figure out who was the leader in the final days of the Franklin expedition. Now, before we try to figure out who Aglooka was, I just have to say that this is all speculation, as there is constantly new info about the expedition, so in the future some things could be proven right and some things could be proven wrong. So we do have a few options for who Aglooka was. One of the many people suspected of being Aglooka is the captain of HMS Terror, Francis Crozier. Crozier could speak the language and was an Arctic veteran who was part of 6 expeditions. But there are a few issues with Crozier being Aglooka. There are accounts of the Inuit witnessing a funeral for some important officer. Now you might think that this was Sir John Franklin, but Franklin was lost at a time when they were many miles away from King William Island, and the Inuit said that in this case, the burial was very close to King William Island. Also, Crozier would have been in his early 50s in 1848, so him being one of the last survivors is possible, but it is also questionable if he had survived that long marching due to all the other ailments the men faced. There always is the possibility this funeral was someone else, so Crozier could have been Aglooka, but I think we should check out our other possibilities of who Aglooka was. One of the most interesting stories that could tell us who Aglooka was is the story of a great officer and his sword. Now, this incident could have happened in either the spring of 1850, when a group of Inuit hunters encountered a group of 40 survivors pulling a boat in Washington Bay and traded stuff for supplies. But the hunter Two-Shoe, who gave the sword to Robert McFarlane in the 1880s, said that in 1857, Aglooka, in thanks for helping him and his men survive the winter and nursing them back to health, Aglooka wanted to give the hunter his rifle in thanks. Two-Shoe did not know how the rifle worked, so instead, Aglooka gave the hunter his prized sword as thanks. This sword may have been from Solomon Tozier, Sergeant of the Royal Marines, due to the fact that this sword has a basket-styled hilt instead of a closed-guard hilt, and this type of sword would have been given to a Royal Marine sergeant. It is also noted that the sword had markings WIV, which stands for King William IV. And he had a very short reign of 1830 to 1837. Now, although Sergeant Tozier became sergeant in 1844, it is likely he just got handed old military stock for his promotion or bought the older sword because it was cheaper than a newer sword. Now, one of the other names that kept showing up as the possible identity of Aglooka is Lieutenant Edward Little. It is said that Little was the Aglooka that led the Washington Bay Party, and he was seen writing stuff down. Little was Crozier's second, so if Crozier was lost earlier in the expedition, Little would have been in charge with Fitzjames. There is also the possibility that Crozier may have taught Little a small amount of Inuit phrases, and Little was writing Inuit phrases that he heard. If there was a total loss of structure in the expedition, it would make sense that Little would have been the one to lead the men along with James Fitzjames. The last accounts of Aglooka and his men said that the last of the survivors tried to skirt the western part of the Hudson Bay to make it to Fort Churchill. Somewhere along the way, Aglooka and his men were lost. I personally think Tozier was one of the last leaders because of the story of the great officer's sword. But who do you think Aglooka was? Leave your comment down below, and until next time, have a good one.